presentation. And the first topic in here is item placement. Item placement allows you to change the location of a control on an SAP form or window. And you can accomplish this with APP by opening the control properties, just where we were before, and clicking on the item placement button. Okay, so that was one of the areas we did touch on. Right here is a button called item placement. When you do that, it will prompt you for the item placement options, which is essentially asking where do you want to put this. So what we need to do at that point is create a reference control ID or select a reference control ID, which is pick any other control on that screen. And then once you select it, you then need to indicate whether you want to place your original control to the left, to the right, above, or below that control. Okay, so that takes us to our first demonstration, where we'll actually go ahead and try that. Okay, so I've got SAP up here. And what we're going to do in this demonstration is we're going to open up the business partner window. Just open up Norm Thompson's record. And we're going to move the telephone field from where it currently sits in this part of the form up to beneath the opportunities field up here. Okay. So what we want to do is open up the control properties for the telephone one field. I'm going to right-click on it. Oh, I'm sorry. First, let's do this. Okay, once APP is reloaded, we'll go into our business partner master data window. Right-click on the telephone number field. Under the APP Customizer menu, as we saw before, there'll be control properties. Okay, so using the control properties, we'll select item placement options, and then we are prompted for selecting a reference control. So our reference control is where we want to put it. So first we right-clicked on telephone 1 because that's what we want to move, and now it's asking where do you want to put it. So we're going to select opportunities. Before we select it, we click this little ellipse button, and it asks us to select a reference item. So then we can go ahead and click the opportunities button. I'm sorry, the opportunities field. Once it's selected, it places the ID of that field in here. So it knows it's 149, which is the ID for that field. And then we just say we want to place it below. So we'll click below and hit OK. And we apply our changes and close the window. And voila, the telephone number field is moved to the location underneath the Opportunities tab. Now, once this field is moved over here, let's just flip back to our presentation. Once the field is over there, it becomes apparent pretty quickly that this does not line up with the fields above it. So it looks a little strange. The telephone 1 label is to the left of the opportunities label. The width of this field is wider than the width of the field above it. So even though we've essentially accomplished moving it, it doesn't really look very natural. So the ability to make adjustments is what we need to take a look at. To correct this, we're going to change the width property of this field to match the width of the field above it. On the telephone field, we're going to change the left position of it to match the left position of the field above that. And there's a couple of ways to find this out. You can go into the properties of each one of these other fields to find out the left position and the width. But there's a nice tool that's available, and that's going to we're going to go through that in the next demo. There's a tool called Show Field Properties that when you click on the actual field, it will show you at the bottom the information. So here, if we click on Opportunities, we can see the width of that field is 136. And then all we need to do is change the width of our telephone field to match it, and it should line up perfectly. Okay, so that takes us to our second demonstration where we're going to fix this telephone field. So the first thing is let's turn on our option for display field properties. So again, underneath the APP Customizer menu, we're going to be here a lot today, there's an option for display field properties. So once we turn that on, now if we click here on the opportunities, you can see at the bottom that the width is 136. So how do we change the width of our telephone field? Well, same way. We right-click on it, APP, Control Properties, to get into the telephone field properties, and we set the width to 136, and apply and close. And voila. Okay, so now it's perfect. It looks just like the other fields, very natural. The only issue we have left now is this telephone field here on the left is the telephone field on the left is not lined up with the opportunities. So what we want to do is look at the opportunities field, and we find that the left position of the opportunities field is 304. So we want to make the left position of our telephone 1 label 304 as well. There's a question that's come in. The presentation can be sent out to you after. I should have the emails of everybody that signed up, so I will send you a copy of the presentation with my notes as well. So, okay. So our left position is going to be 304, and we can apply and close that. Okay, and there you go. And that looks now very natural. You know, this is a change that will stick, so you know you don't have to do anything different. It's going to always be there now, and it's no longer in the position it was before. It's in the new position, and it looks as natural as the other fields that are placed next to it. Okay, so once those changes are made, then you can see that looks fine. All right, the next topic is removing and copying item placement settings. So for a variety of reasons, you may decide you no longer want to keep the item placement changes that you made. You know, one option is you can go back into the properties on that field and you can change it back to the original properties, but you'd have to keep really good notes about what they were before you moved it, and no one's going to do that. So fortunately, APP provides an easy way to remove your item placement changes. In this window, you'll see the item configurator, which is available underneath the APP Customizer menu. You'll see all of the changes that you made. So when you bring this up, you'll see that we moved the phone 1 field and the telephone 1 label to a new position. This is also a great window for accessing all of the properties of all of the fields that you moved, because not only can you remove these item placement settings, but you can go right from here, you can hit Edit, and that will open up the field properties directly from this window as well. So at the bottom of the window, the last part to this is there's a Copy To function. And this is nice in the specific instance if you made a setting change to like the sales quotation window and you wanted to copy that same configuration change to the sales order window, you can do Copy To, and you can copy selected settings from one form to another form. So we're going to go do a demo on this right now. So the first thing is we right-click on the window, and we go into APP Customizer, and we go into the Item Placement Configurator. So this is just a summary of all the item placement changes that we made. And you can look, if you've done them on other windows, you can see them as well, so you can really see everything that's been done. So let's say we wanted to remove these item placements. We can go ahead and hit Remove here. Okay, and it removes both because these two are actually grouped together. SAP has done that. So you don't need to worry about moving two fields. You could just move the data field, and it will move the label along with it. And once we do that, this is one example. It won't dynamically remove it, so we just need to close the window and reopen the window. And then you can see that the telephone 1 field is now back in the original position. Okay, now the next thing we're going to use in this demo is we're going to go to the sales quotation window. And we're going to move the sales employee field right beneath the document date. So let's say you want your sales employee to be up here as well. So it's essentially the same steps. We right-click on it, APP Customizer, and go into the control properties. Once the properties come up, we select Item Placement Options. And once the Item Placement Options window appears, we hit our ellipse button to pick our reference field. When prompted, we select the field that we want to place it near, reopen our Item Placement Options, and select what position we want to place it. So we'll place it below, click OK, and apply and close. Okay, now we also want to make some adjustments here. So if we click the field above, we can see the width is 137. We go into the properties. Match the width. Apply and close. This field here, the left position is 407. So we open up the control properties for the sales employee field and change the left position to 407. Apply and close. Okay, and that's all set. Now, on occasion, depending on certain field variations, you will get situations where like the color changes to match the, I'm not sure exactly why it happens, but you can fix this. So the for color of this can be changed to black. Or to any other color as well. You can change it to whatever you need. Okay, and now we've got that set. So, okay, now what if we wanted to make this a universal change? We wanted this change to actually also appear on our sales order window. What we can do is go into right-click on the form, APP Customizer, go into our Item Placement Configurator, and that's going to show us the changes we just made. And in here, we can do a copy to. I'm sorry. Yeah, we need to select what we want to copy. So I'll highlight both of these rows. We do a copy to, and we can copy it to our sales order. Okay, and then when you click OK on that, we open up our sales order. Okay, our sales order will then have the same configuration changes. Okay, so it's an easy way to make the screens consistent. Most of the time when you make a visual change to something like a sales document or a purchasing document, it's expected that the same change is going to be apparent in all of the subsequent windows in that flow. So sales order to delivery to invoice, credit memo. All right, so that concludes our section on item placement. Just as a quick review, you can move an SAP field onto from one place on the form to another place on a form, make adjustments to the field properties to line up the width and the left position and so forth. You could delete the item placement changes, and you can also copy item placement changes from one form to another. So I'm going to take a minute here just to review. So I think there's some questions that came in. Yeah, there's a question that says, is this user dependent or does it apply to all users? If we just flip back to SAP, there are options here. So when you do your item placements, let's go back into the control properties. There are options in here to make these changes specific to select users. So on the applicable users, if you hit the ellipse here, it will give you a list of all the users, and you can define which users you want this change to apply to. If, let's say it was something that you wanted to, you had 50 people working in your organization, and everybody was going to get it but 2 people. What you can do is select the exclude selected items checkbox here. And when you select that, what that does is it will apply it to everybody but the people that you select here. Now you can also select it to branches and departments if you've set this up in your system. Okay, a couple more questions here. What version is this available on? Yeah, I mean it's an 8.8 build, so it would be available on. I'm pretty sure, I would have to verify, but I'm pretty sure 8.8 build 1 would be fine. So you should be able to install APP as long as it's APP 88.1.2. something, which should run on any 8.8 build. Then you should be okay to go. The next question is, so you make your item changes in a development environment. Is there an easy way to move this to production? Yeah, there is a tool, a migration wizard that's included as part of it. This is the one thing that's not on the right-click menu, but it is in here under Customizer. You could use this object migration wizard. The object migration wizard steps you through the process of moving the changes from one database to another. And do they survive future updates and upgrades? Yes, they absolutely do. To the extent that SAP doesn't change the coding on the user interface, which is something that they should never do. But just to be frank, they do. On occasion, it does happen. It's not on purpose, but they do sometimes make changes that affect the software development environment, which is essentially what you're using. It should not happen, but that's something that that on occasion, I've seen happen, and it's usually fixed with a patch release. Okay, so at this point, we're going to move on to the next section, which is how to add user-defined fields to the main form. Now, item placement is useful when you want to rearrange the standard SAP fields, but one of the most often requested customizations that I've heard over the years is why user-defined fields can't appear on the same form. Well, now they can. And using APP Customizer functionality, your user-defined fields and your standard SAP fields can both be placed on the same form right next to each other. Adding the UDFs to the main forms, it's a little bit different than moving the forms with the item placement. The process changes from, in the first case, we were picking the field where we wanted to move, and then we were moving it to, and then selecting where we wanted to move it. This is almost the opposite. So for user-defined fields, what we do is we first select where we want to move the field, and then underneath the APP Customizer menu, we select user-defined fields, and then we'll get a list of user-defined fields on that window, and we pick which one we want to move. And once we do that, the next window comes up, which you should recognize at this point, which is where do you want to put it. The nice part here is that it automatically fills the reference control in because that's where we started from. So all you need to do on this window is select which position you want to put that in relation to the field. Okay, and then once you do that, this is an example. We move this field here. It appears on the main form. Now, just one note about this. This field doesn't move. It actually is. It appears on the main form, and they're essentially the same field. So you've got the same field. It still sits on the user-defined field, but with enough effort, you can actually take this approach and move all of the key fields from your user-defined window on the side onto your main form, and then completely eliminate the need for users to have to look at this window anymore. So you can close this window up, and I know it causes problems. Sometimes people close this window instead of hitting the X to close the main window, and then the next time they open the form, it's not showing, and there's confusion about where those fields went. So it would be a really nice feature, and it is a really nice feature to be able to move these fields to the main form, moving them front and center so you can work with them. In addition, APP Customizer allows you to add new controls to the windows. So, for example, if you wanted to add a new tab, that's something that comes up with sales orders. With APP, this is easy. You just right-click on the existing tab set, and you can choose APP Customizer, New Item, and then just select Tab. And once you do that, you'll be prompted for the form controls. And on the form controls, you can change the caption because you don't want it to be called new tab. You can change it to be sales info or something like that, and apply the changes, and voila, you get your sales info tab. Okay, so in this next demo, we're going to add a new tab to the sales order window. We're going to move the tab to the left of the logistics tab. We'll use the item placement to move the sales employee field to the new tab. We're going to hide the reference fields, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Make final field position adjustments, and then we'll move the shipping by user-defined field to the new tab as well. Okay, so let's open up our sales order window and get started. Okay, so the first thing is to add a new tab. What we'll do is we'll just right-click on the existing tab set. So any one of these tabs will do. Select APP Customizer, New Item, and Tab. And you can see it creates the tab, but it has a caption of New Item, which we're not going to keep. So we'll change the caption here, and we're going to call this Sales Info. Okay, now we may want to move this field. So we can, if we right-click on it, and I could have done this before I closed it, if we reopen up the control properties and we select item placement options, it'll ask for a reference. So I'm actually going to select the logistics tab as my reference item. And then I'm going to place it to the left. Okay, actually, I think I shifted it over one too many. Okay, now on the Sales Info tab, what the new tab item does is it inserts something called a reference item. And the reason for this is that one of the most difficult parts of placing new fields onto this tab is that you need to select a field that's a reference field. And since it's a new tab, there's no reference items there. So the reference item is really just like a starter point that allows you to put new fields next to it. So since we want to take the sales employee field and move it onto this area, what we'll do is we'll right-click, go into APP Customizer and Control Properties, and select Item Placement Options. Now here, this is the point where the reference item comes into play. Since we want to put it next to here, we're going to select the reference item and then click this reference item here and place it below. Okay, so that's just a way to grab some position on this new tab and put something onto it. Once we've done that, we don't need the reference item anymore. So what we can do is we can right-click on it, go into the control properties of that reference item, and just set visible equal to not visible, right? So we're just going to make it disappear because we don't really need it. Next, we'll change the position of the field because it's a little bit too far to the right. So we'll go into the control properties for the label. I'm going to change my left position from 72 to 10. And instead of apply and close, I'm going to hit apply, which is going to show me the changes and leave the window open. So if I don't like that change, I can now change the value and reapply. That looks fine to me, so I'll Hit apply and close to get rid of that. And then next, we'll adjust the position of the sales employee field. So I'll change this to, try 170. Hit apply. Maybe a little bit closer. Go to 135. And that's good enough for me. So I'll hit apply and close. Okay, now last, we're going to open up the user-defined fields window, and I want to move the shipping by field, this user field, right beneath the sales employee. So again, we start on the target position, right? Where do we want to place it? So we right-click on the sales employee field, APP customizer, and we look at the UDF option. And under here, we just find our ship by or shipping by field, and we select it. And when the item placement options come up, it already knows that we want to place it next to that field, so all we need to do is select below and click OK. And there it is. Okay, so here's an example of creating a new tab on your form, and then organizing both your SAP standard fields and your user-defined fields so that they exist side by side, front and center. You can close your user-defined window now because maybe that's the only field that you use. It's a user-defined field. And you've got complete access to the information. Okay, let's go back to up there. Okay, so quick review on this. What we covered in the SAP screen design, this is the conclusion of it, is how to place items. So we use the item placement function to move standard SAP fields from one position to another, and also make adjustments to the positions. We also added user-defined fields to the main form, and added new controls to the window, such as the tab. So I'm just going to take a quick look here at the question.